Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. I recently partnered with a small manufacturing facility in my region. Our agreement centered on capital investment and modernizing their production lines through automation. What was planned as a 2-year project we completed in just 8 months. The facility operated with 50 production workers split between two 12-hour shifts, working 2 days on and 3 days off. Each shift had 2 production supervisors and 1 maintenance supervisor managing the floor. Initially, I was just going to be an outside contractor, but the workforce's positive attitude made me want to get more involved. That changed when I worked nights for a week during some essential line upgrades. That's where I encountered Marcus Thompson, a name I'd rather forget. Marcus seemed decent enough at first, but then I witnessed how he treated his maintenance crew over the radio. "Hey idiots, what's taking so long with that conveyor belt?" he'd bark. "Jimmy, get your lazy self up here now." The verbal abuse was constant. One night, I heard him say to Derek, a veteran employee who'd been there since day one, "You're too slow. Maybe we need someone younger." The racist comments that followed made my stomach turn. The maintenance crew just took it, never fighting back. "Sir," I approached the plant manager, Steve, the next day. "We need to discuss Marcus Thompson's behavior." "Oh, that's just shop talk." Steve waved it off. "Nobody's filed any formal complaints." "Because they're afraid," I countered. But he wouldn't listen. I started documenting everything. Every radio transmission, every witness account, every violation of state and federal regulations. The breaking point came when Marcus verbally attacked Tom, a 50-year-old maintenance worker who requested time off for his nephew's emergency surgery. "What kind of excuse is that?" Marcus screamed over the radio. "Your nephew can wait. We need you here." "But sir, he's in critical condition," Tom replied quietly. "I don't care if he's dying. Get your priorities straight." I gathered the maintenance crew in the break room after shift. "Look at this documentation," I said, spreading out my spreadsheets. "This isn't just workplace harassment. It's systematic abuse and retaliation." "What's the point?" Juan, one of the technicians, sighed. "Nothing ever changes here." "It will this time," I assured them. "We have dates, times, witnesses, and recordings. The other shift supervisors heard everything too. They finally agreed to take action. When they presented their evidence to upper management, the response was swift. Marcus was terminated within 48 hours. The transformation was incredible. Productivity increased, machinery downtime decreased, and people actually smiled at work. A week later, I found something attached to my office door, a metal placard reading #1boss with boss crossed out and badass carefully engraved below it. It now hangs in my home office as my most valued workplace memento. The next one is an entitled people story. I never thought I'd have to deal with such entitled neighbors when I bought my dream home last year. The house itself was perfect. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and most importantly, a beautiful in-ground pool in the spacious backyard. As someone who works from home as a software developer, having a pool to relax in after long hours of coding was exactly what I needed. Everything was great for the first few months after moving in. I maintained the pool meticulously, kept the water crystal clear, and enjoyed peaceful evening swims. That all changed when the Andersons moved in next door about 6 months ago. The father, Mike Anderson, seemed friendly enough at first. He introduced himself and his family, wife Sarah and their 3 kids aged 8, 14. We had a brief chat over the fence, and I thought nothing more of it. That is, until I caught their kids splashing around in my pool one Saturday afternoon in May while I was working in my home office. I went outside immediately. "Hey kids, what are you doing in my pool?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral despite my annoyance. The oldest boy replied casually, "Oh, Dad said it was fine for us to use it." I frowned. "Your dad doesn't have the authority to give permission to use my pool. This is private property. Please get out and don't come back without asking me first." The kids seemed surprised, but complied, gathering their towels and heading home. I figured that would be the end of it. Just a misunderstanding that needed clearing up. Boy, was I wrong. Less than an hour later, Mike Anderson was at my front door looking irritated. "Hey neighbor, what's the big deal? The kids were just having some innocent fun," he said, his arms crossed. I maintained my composure. "Mike, I understand they wanted to swim, but you can't just send your kids to use my pool without asking. There are liability issues, and frankly, it's my private property." He scoffed. "Come on, don't be that neighbor. We're all friends here. The previous owners never had an issue with kids using the pool." "Well, I'm not the previous owners," I replied firmly. "I'm happy to discuss arranged pool visits if we can set up proper boundaries and rules, but you need to ask first." "Whatever," he muttered, turning to leave. "Just trying to be neighborly." I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. But over the next few weeks, I kept finding evidence of unauthorized pool use. wet footprints on the deck, pool toys that weren't mine, the occasional towel left behind. I installed security cameras and was shocked to see that not only were the Anderson kids regularly sneaking in to swim, but Mike himself was using my pool early in the mornings before I typically woke up. I confronted him again, this time with video evidence. "Mike, I have footage of you and your family repeatedly using my pool without permission. This needs to stop." He had the audacity to laugh. "Those cameras are an invasion of privacy. You can't film my kids without permission." "There's security cameras on my property, and they wouldn't be filming your kids if they weren't trespassing," I countered. "This is your final warning before I take legal action." "Legal action?" he sneered. "Over a pool? Get real, you're just being selfish. That pool sits empty most of the day anyway." I realized reasoning with him was pointless. The next day I called a contractor and arranged to have a 6-foot privacy fence with a lockable gate installed around the pool area. I also put up several clearly visible private property no trespassing signs. The installation was completed within a week. That same evening, there was a knock at my door. 2 police officers stood on my porch with a smirking Mike Anderson visible in his driveway. "Good evening, sir," one officer said. "We received a complaint about harassment and threatening behavior." I couldn't help but laugh. "Let me guess. Mike Anderson called you?" "Yes, he claims you've installed cameras pointing at his property and put up threatening signs to intimidate his family." "Officers, I'd be happy to show you everything," I said, pulling out my phone. "I have security footage of Mr. Anderson and his family repeatedly trespassing on my property to use my pool without permission, despite multiple warnings. The cameras are focused entirely on my property, and the signs are standard no trespassing notices because they kept ignoring my verbal requests to stay out." I showed them several clips of the Andersons using my pool without permission, including timestamps showing how frequent it was. The officers reviewed the footage carefully. "And you've asked them to stop?" one officer asked. "Multiple times. I have text messages as well where I explicitly told Mike to stop using my pool without permission. That's why I installed the fence and gate." The officers nodded and went to speak with Mike. I couldn't hear the conversation, but from his increasingly red face and animated gestures, it wasn't going his way. The officers returned to my door. "Sir, you're well within your rights to secure your property and post no trespassing signs. We've informed Mr. Anderson that any further unauthorized use of your pool would constitute criminal trespassing. We've also warned him about making false police reports." I thanked them for their time, feeling vindicated. But Mike Anderson wasn't done yet. The next morning, I woke up to find my gate lock had been broken and the pool water was a sickly green color. Security footage showed Mike dumping something into the pool around 3 a.m. I immediately called the police and my homeowner's insurance. The police took one look at the footage and arrested Mike for vandalism and criminal trespassing. Water testing revealed he had dumped pool chemicals in completely wrong proportions, requiring the pool to be drained and professionally cleaned. The total damage came to over $3,500. My insurance company went after Mike for the full amount, and he was charged with criminal mischief, trespassing, and vandalism. He ended up having to pay restitution for the pool damage, plus fines for the criminal charges. But the story doesn't end there. Sarah Anderson, Mike's wife, came to my house a few days after his arrest, looking embarrassed. "I'm so sorry about all this," she said. "I've been telling Mike for weeks to stop using your pool, but he kept insisting it was his right as a neighbor. He's always been like this, thinking he's entitled to whatever he wants." I appreciated her apology, but maintained my boundary. "Thank you for apologizing, but I hope you understand why I can't allow your family to use the pool anymore, even with permission." She nodded. "I completely understand. We're actually going to be moving soon." After this incident, I finally filed for divorce. Mike's behavior has been getting worse over the years, and this was the last straw. I felt bad for her and the kids, but I was relieved to hear they'd be leaving. True to her word, they put their house on the market the following week. Mike wasn't allowed on the property due to a restraining order I'd obtained after the vandalism incident. The criminal case concluded with Mike getting 18 months probation, mandatory anger management classes, and a $5,000 fine on top of the restitution he already owed for the pool damage. He was also ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from my property. Sarah and the kids moved to another state to be closer to her family. She sent me a final email thanking me for standing my ground, saying it had given her the push she needed to leave a toxic situation. The new neighbors who bought the Andersons' house are a lovely retired couple who have zero interest in my pool. They just want to tend to their garden and wave hello over the fence occasionally. I've since upgraded my security system with motion sensors and better cameras. The fence now has an electronic lock with key code access, and I've added underwater lights and a heating system to enjoy the pool year-round. Every time I take a peaceful swim, I think about how standing up to entitled behavior, while uncomfortable at first, was absolutely the right thing to do. The whole experience taught me valuable lessons about setting boundaries and not backing down when someone tries to take advantage of your kindness. It also showed me how important it is to document everything and handle conflict through proper legal channels rather than letting things escalate through confrontation. Update, 6 months later. I didn't expect to be posting an update, but some interesting developments have occurred that I thought were worth sharing. First, I received a certified letter from Mike Anderson's attorney last month. Apparently, he's trying to sue me for emotional distress and defamation, claiming that my security footage and police report ruined his life. His lawyer demanded $50,000 in damages, claiming I had maliciously orchestrated his arrest and divorce. I immediately forwarded the letter to my attorney, who literally laughed when she read it. She responded with a detailed letter outlining all the evidence we had: security footage, police reports, criminal conviction records, and documentation of the pool damage. She also pointed out that truth is an absolute defense against defamation, and reminded them that filing frivolous lawsuits can result in sanctions. We didn't hear back from Mike's attorney after that. My lawyer told me he likely took the case without fully understanding the background and dropped it once he realized how much evidence we had. But the most surprising update came from Sarah, Mike's ex-wife. She reached out to let me know that my security footage had helped her secure full custody of the kids. Apparently, Mike had a history of similar entitled behavior that she'd documented over the years, and the pool incident was the final piece of evidence showing his pattern of disregard for others' property and inability to control his anger. The judge was especially concerned about the 3 a.m. vandalism footage, she wrote. He said anyone who would sneak around in the middle of the night to damage property over such a petty grievance couldn't be trusted with unsupervised visitation of children. She also shared that the kids are doing much better now. They're in therapy and learning about respecting boundaries and property, lessons their father clearly never taught them. The oldest even wrote me an apology letter for the pool incidents, which was completely unexpected but appreciated. The story spread through our neighborhood, and several neighbors have since told me about their own past issues with Mike. One family revealed he used to park his car in their driveway without permission, claiming it was occasional overflow parking. Another said he would help himself to vegetables from their garden because neighbors should share. The president of our HOA, yes, we have one, but they're actually reasonable, asked permission to use my case as an example in their newsletter about respecting property boundaries. They've since installed better security cameras throughout the community and implemented stricter enforcement of trespassing rules. My home insurance company was so impressed with how I handled the situation, especially the documentation and security measures, that they featured my story in their quarterly newsletter as an example of proper property protection and incident reporting. They even gave me a discount on my premium for installing the upgraded security system. The retired couple next door have become wonderful neighbors. They occasionally bring over homemade cookies, always call before visiting, and recently asked if they could pay me to use my pool for their grandkids' supervised visits. Properly insured and with signed liability waivers, of course. That's how normal people handle these things. I've since hosted a few proper pool parties for neighbors who actually ask permission and respect boundaries. It's amazing how much more enjoyable it is to share when people approach it with respect rather than entitlement. Last week, I overheard that Mike had tried to pull similar stunts in his new neighborhood across town, attempting to use someone's tennis court without permission. Apparently, he was quickly shut down when they threatened to call the police, citing his previous arrest record. Word gets around in our town, it seems. The whole experience has actually brought our community closer together. Several neighbors have installed their own security systems based on my recommendations, and we've started a neighborhood watch program. We even have a group text chain to alert each other about suspicious activity. Looking back, while the situation was stressful and frustrating, I'm glad I stood my ground. It not only protected my property, but helped a family escape a toxic situation and made our entire neighborhood more secure and connected. For anyone dealing with entitled neighbors, document everything, know your rights, and don't be afraid to involve the proper authorities. Sometimes being the bad guy who enforces boundaries is exactly what's needed to create positive change. And yes, I'm still enjoying my peaceful solo swims, now with the added security of knowing my property and rights are well protected. The next one is a malicious compliances story. I think this qualifies as malicious compliance, as one person being inflexible with the letter of a policy led the other person to comply with said policy and pursue its options in a way that brought about a change that aligned with the spirit of what was asked for in the first place. My parents had a house fire recently, no fault of theirs, and while the house didn't burn to the ground, this is important for later, it is basically a total loss due to heat, smoke, and structural damage. They have great replacement insurance. While the long wait for restoration and replacement will be frustrating, they are in as good of a situation as one could hope for. They also have one of those appliance service plans where they pay monthly. If any covered appliance isn't working properly, the service company will send someone out to troubleshoot, repair, and if it can't be repaired, replaced. My parents have the total coverage plan, including everything from kitchen to laundry to the freezer chest and mudroom fridge. Since the house is uninhabitable, they called to cancel the service and ask about prorating this month. My mom explains the situation and the rep on the phone says sorry, they can't prorate this month, nor can they cancel the service for the next payment cycle, even though they are in the middle of this payment cycle. Basically, it will be 45 more days of paying for coverage. My mom states that they are dealing with the stress of a house fire and living in short-term housing. I understand you can't prorate this month, but can you at least cancel the service for next month based on our situation? The rep says, well, I'm happy to cancel the service effective today if that's what you really want, but you will still have to pay for this month and next month. I can tell you from personal experience it's a bad idea to get cute with my mom. My mom says, okay, no, we aren't going to cancel a service we still have to pay for. Please keep the service in place. Instead, I'd like to file a claim on all of our appliances. There is a pause, and the rep says, you can't do that on appliances destroyed by fire. My mom says, oh no, the house was damaged, but the appliances weren't destroyed. Since this plan is effective through next month, please start a claim to send a service rep out to the house for all of our covered appliances and do any repairs or replacements as needed. There is another pause, and the rep asks her to hold. A few minutes later, a supervisor gets on the line and says that due to the circumstances, they are happy to make an exception to cancel coverage early if she would like. Yes, thank you. For anyone thinking my parents should have seen the MC through to the end, they got what they initially asked for, and to do so would have foregone personal benefit for spite since the appliances will be covered by home insurance anyway. The next one is an entitled People's Story. Hi everyone, I need advice about this friendship because it's really confusing me and I'm feeling so conflicted. My friend texted me to say her birthday month is here and asked if I could take her out for her birthday. She also mentioned that my birthday month was last month and we still need to celebrate mine, but since we're now in her month, sorry, I'll have to wait. Now, life threw me a massive curveball recently. I experienced a devastating personal loss in my family and grief has been incredibly hard to deal with. Despite this, I always try to help others because I know how dark and painful life can feel sometimes. For context, my friend doesn't have her parents, sister, or close friends around anymore. She says they've hurt her and are narcissistic. She has a husband and 6 kids, and we've been friends for only about 2 years. I initially found it unusual that she asked me to take her out for her birthday, but I thought maybe she was feeling alone and wanted some company. Even though I didn't feel up to going out due to my grief, I still made an effort. I asked her if it was okay for me to plan dinner and an activity for her birthday, and her exact words were, "Thank you for picking me up. I'm easy for whatever dinner and activity." So I went ahead and booked a nice restaurant, organized a glow-in-the-dark paint class, and even ordered a dozen cupcakes to be delivered to her house. I let her know about the cupcake delivery, saying it would arrive between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. and that if she wasn't home, it would be placed in a safe spot. I also suggested, as an option, that she could wear neon clothing or accessories for the paint class, knowing she likes to dress up. Then came her response. "My normal life is just so busy. I feel put on the spot that you want me to stay home for 6 hours for a delivery. After a workday, you want me to find a costume. I feel stressed. And you booked things without asking if I was okay with it first. That's a big thing for me." I was absolutely shocked when I read her text. I had to book and pay for everything in advance, including a deposit for dinner and full payment for the paint class. Now she wanted me to cancel everything and just take her out for dinner. To be honest, I was really annoyed. I went ahead and canceled everything. At that point, I felt I'd rather not take her out at all if she was just going to complain and sulk about things not going according to her plan, especially when she's the one who asked me to take her out in the first place. I didn't speak to her for 3 months after that. Recently, though, it marked 1 year since she applied for an intervention order against her parents, and I was there to support her through that. I decided to reach out to say I was thinking of her during this tough time. I also asked if she'd like to meet in person or talk over the phone to hash things out about her birthday incident. Her response shocked me again. "Thank you for reaching out. It's been tough since saying no to an activity I wasn't comfortable with, then being rejected for dinner on my birthday, and then being ghosted for 3 months. It felt like a punishment when I didn't comply. I had dinner time booked out just for you. I understand you have grief, and I'm not angry, but I'm not sure I can be hurt like that again after giving you my deep trust, which I don't give to too many people. I will always care for you, keep you in my prayers, and hope you are okay. I'm completely gobsmacked. How did I hurt her or lose her trust over this? I went out of my way to plan something nice for her, and now it feels like she's throwing a tantrum about absolutely nothing. She turned 45, yet she's acting like a 5-year-old having a meltdown. Am I missing something here? I really tried to be a good friend, but I feel like she's overreacting, and I don't know how to process this. I need your advice. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.